Hi, my name is Benjamin Faust, and today I'd like to talk to you about the case for and against drug legalization. Of course, I'm talking about illegal drugs here, and I'm going to use the concept of elasticity of demand to talk about it. First of all, let's go over that. I've got two graphs up here on the board, graph A and graph B, and as you can see, they're pretty much identical except for the fact that I've got a not so steep demand curve here and a very steep demand curve here. And let's just run over some basic facts about this, then we'll get into illegal drug use. Does drug use in the United States look like this or look like this? Think about it as I'm going over this stuff. For example, in this case right here, we have our market equilibrium and we have a certain quantity being purchased at the market equilibrium. Now, of course, we also are paying a price in order to use those illegal drugs. And here's what happened. If we are to go ahead and restrict supply, maybe some kind of a drug war, here's how it looks. We'll move from S to S1, restricting supply. Here's what happens. We're going to have a little bit of a price increase, and we're going to have a lot of reduction in quantity there. For a little bit of price increase, a lot of reduction in quantity. Does illegal drug use look like this? Think about that. Let's go over this other chart on the other side. In this case, highly inelastic demand, we have, of course, our market equilibrium here. And we have our price at the market equilibrium. We have our quantity at the market equilibrium. Now, of course, let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let's restrict supply, something like a war on drugs. War on drugs to S to S1, a restriction of supply. And we have a new market equilibrium, a new price. In fact, the price went up a lot in this case. And the quantity, however, did not drop that much. Now, does this look like illegal drug use in the United States? Let me step aside here for a minute. You can think about it. Which one does it look like? Let me tell you a story. Let's talk about the story of Graph A. Graph A is this story. Suppose there are three high school friends and they want to experience a chemical change in the way they feel, and they decide to use some weed. And so they get together, they call up the dealer, they are unable to get a hold of the dealer. Okay, they text, they call again, they text, nothing. Well, we're done, we're gonna go home. Do they say that? No, they're gonna say, you know what, we can't get weed, but we might be able to get into my grandmother's liquor cabinet. And so they go over to grandma's liquor cabinet, they find the key right next to the dentures, and they open the liquor cabinet, but grandma's got a little bit of a problem, so they open the cabinet, it's already all gone. Are they done? You know what? No, my older brother, he smokes and he keeps an extra pack of cigarettes, a spare one, under his second pillow. We'll just get that and we'll smoke cigarettes. That's the picture of here. There are substitutes available, and the picture of the drug user says, partier, casual user, probably not a daily user. Now, let's do another story for Graph B. Graph B is this. No matter what, you have to have it. Let's use, for an example, opiates, heroin and pills. Heroin and pills. Opiates, if you don't have it, you're not going to do very well. No matter what, every day your entire focus is on making sure you get the drug you need in order to feel comfortable. If you can't find it, you continue searching for it, you're not able to make the substitutions you were here. You may not even be a partier. You may have started out as a partier, but now you're doing it just to feel normal, to feed the addiction, to keep yourself from getting sick, from going through withdrawal. Let's put some numbers with these, especially this one. Let's put some numbers with this one to give some perspective here. Shall we start with, let's go ahead and put a price here. Let's say this price is $18 per day. $18 per day is about the price you would pay if you are a heavy smoker in the United States, paying $6 a pack, 3 packs a day. That's higher than most smokers, but $18, is that going to break you Probably not for most Americans. Some, it's expensive, they'd have to stretch. Some people probably would have to steal or do some antisocial behavior in order to get it, but 18, most Americans can do that on a daily basis. Let's say, though, you've restricted the drug to S1 there, and the price goes up to $150 per day for, let's say, heroin and pills. Can most Americans afford $150 per day to support a habit? The answer is no. And this picture right here is why many economists, myself not included, but many economists actually will say, let's go ahead and legalize drugs. Because you've got a situation where down here at 18, at the price of the market equilibrium, before we've done a war on drugs, you have what we call functional addicts. We have people who are the people who are addicted are the ones paying for the cost. It's them and their families paying for the cost of the addiction. You move up here, and the addiction gets, they're still paying for the cost themselves, but it's also spilling out to the wider community. Where you get the 5-year-old girl shot in the crossfires of a drug war, that happens up here. Where you get the stealing, that happens up here. And $150 a day is not unusual, unfortunately, for a heroin habit. And so this restriction, when you have a highly inelastic product, causes the market causes the addict to have his or her negativity from that addiction spill over into the market, which is why many economists support the legalization of drugs. My question is this, just a thought I have. Do people start out over here saying, you know what, I would like to become somebody who's addicted to something that's very expensive and it's hard to get? Is that what typically happens? No, they don't. They typically start out over here with being a casual user. So you have this pipeline, sometimes it's called gateway drug or something else, and people start out, they come in here, they start casually using, and over a period of time, maybe even only one time, they get addicted, and so then they come over here and they become the not just a partier, a casual user once in a while, once a month or so. They become a daily user who's sick and must have it at any cost. But in the United States, maybe this doesn't make sense. We are, a lot of people are going to get addicted. We are restricting it. Should we be doing that? But how do we treat it in the US? We say it's illegal. And so we take and we try to stop it here and say, no, don't even try it. I think it's the Montana Meth Project says meth, not even once, don't even try it. So we try to stop it here. If it fails, somebody uses it. Government has little control over whether those people get addicted or not. The addiction sets in. The addict ends up going here where they are having the cost of their addiction spill out into the marketplace. How do we treat? Let's take heroin and pills. Heroin and pill addiction, painkiller addiction, opiate addiction. How do we treat it in the US? Well, we have counseling, we have rehab. After rehab, though, we do put most addicts on a maintenance medication, sometimes for life. And what we put them on methadone or Suboxone. There's also newer drugs out there on the market. What are methadone and Suboxone? They are substitutes for heroin and opiates. In fact, they replicate, and they are in fact opiates, they replicate the effect in the brain to allow the addict to function without getting sick from withdrawal and to keep the cravings at bay. So essentially our policy then moves them from this high social cost area down to the low social cost area where they can afford to maintain their addiction. Sometimes the price is as low as free, some methadone clinics are free. And so for as little cost of zero, which makes no sense if you're like, well, they're getting free drugs, but if they're getting low cost drugs here, which is better, for them to get the low cost drugs or for them to be stealing and robbing people in order to get $150 per day in order to support their habit? Again, my point is, and this is my opinion, is that perhaps U.S. drug policy isn't that bad. We try to stop the flow coming in, we try to discourage the casual use, because the casual use then becomes permanent use that's addicting, and rather than have this right here, this able to substitute behavior, you have this unable to substitute behavior. It becomes highly inelastic, and you get this terrible social cost. But once people do get the social cost, we attempt to move them down here where the cost to society won't be as great.